Francisco and Monterey, where the Monterey pop festivals were. It was the kind of place where really strange, eccentric, weird, artsy, culturally creative people, a great music scene, the Jefferson Airplane, Mamas and the Papas, Grateful Dead. And it was in that kind of environment that was supportive of creativity and of culture and of art and of risk-taking and of creating new ideas, where, you know, the two guys that invented the personal computer with hair down to their shoulders and big beards called Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak could take root. Well, the same thing happened in Austin. Before Michael Dell ever got there, there was the whole Austin explosion of a music scene. And in Seattle, where before Bill Gates and Paul Allen invented modern software programming, people like Jimi Hendrix and other musical pioneers, and then later the whole grunge and kind of new neo-punk movement emerged. So in any place that's going to be an economically or technologically creative place, there has to be an underlying commitment to creativity of all three dimensions. Every single human being is creative. You know, I think in the 1950s we had a giant collective stroke and we thought the only people who were creative were people like me, middle-aged white men. And those are the people who were employed at the, you know, pinnacles of American industry. But when you think about it for more than a millisecond, creativity really does come in both genders. It comes in all races and ethnicities. It comes in all lifestyle and sexual orientations. And one of the things that we're finding is the communities, the places, whether that's San Francisco or Chicago, Austin or Seattle, New York City or Minneapolis, the places which are open to everybody, which are open to diversity, which have low barriers to entry for people, where anybody can plug in and make a life, are going to become the economic winners. And you know, when you think about it for more than a millisecond, if you think about new forms of musical expression and new musics, if you think of new forms of artistic and cultural expression, where do they come from? They don't come from yuppie, gentrified neighborhoods. They come from the streets. And one of the points I try to make in the book is that arts organizations and cultural organizations, as well as economic development organizations and state and local governments, have to get their eyes off the one ball or two balls they know how to focus on. Well, they know how to support the symphony and the opera and the ballet, and in addition, build convention centers and stadiums. But what I'm trying to say in the book is that you have to support local level, street level creativity. The more investments we make in street level culture, arts, music, writing, and harness the energy of just regular folks, not only will the more creative that community be, but over time that'll be the kind of community that creative people of all sorts will move to, and that will be the kind of community that will start to generate new innovations, new companies, and grow economically. We've got to think about, like, you know, the kind of analogy of an Olympic program for creativity. This isn't rocket science. We've got to figure out a way, if this is important, and we know that it is, if these creative environments are the kind of environments creative people are moving to, if creative places broadly are the ones that are generating economic growth, well, it's high time we begin to support them. Over the past 50 years, we've seen a fundamental shift in the nature of our economy and advanced industrial economies as a whole. You know, 50 years ago, more than 45% of Americans worked in factories. 50 years before that, more than 40% of Americans worked on farms. What's happened in the last 50 years is, of course, other nations have caught up to us. They've had the raw materials. They've built the giant factory complexes. They've become very efficient and effective at traditional manufacturing industries. What's left for the advanced industrial nations? What is the next stage of development? It's harnessing the creativity, not just the knowledge and the intelligence and the technology, the broad-based creativity of our people. Now that's obvious in industries like software or biotechnology or robotics, which are purely industries of ideas and where the mind has become the means of production. But if you look at anything you use in your day-to-day life, whether it's the eyeglasses you wear to see better, whether it's the appliances that you use to keep your stuff cold or to cook on, whether it's the car you drive, whether it's the shoes, the clothes, the bag you carry your books and your papers in. Every one of those today are valued much more for their creative content, for their design content, than for their utilitarian content. Why else would people spend hundreds of dollars and more for eyeglasses, hundreds of dollars or more for a pair of shoes, tens of thousands of dollars for a car? In the old days, 50, 100 years ago, we bought and consumed products for their utilitarian content. Today we consume products as much for their creative content, even more so for their creative content than for their utilitarian content. Well, to do that, you have to have a large stock of creative people, and to be an economic winner, you have to be the kind of place that can not only create these people, but attract and retain them.